Welcome back. All right, so some news of the day for all you fine people for your Wednesday. First off, here's the board if you need it. So all that fun stuff. Got to make sure I avoid the glares, all the glares. Anyways, so you got it. Did you pause it? Did you pause it so you could get all that information? All right. That being said, let's go ahead and get things started with news of the day. I'll start off with the non-controversial part of the day, which is the Montreal Canadiens doing what was expected. It is a 3-year extension for Marty St. Louis as the coach of the Montreal Canadiens. Surprising no one really with this news. This leaked out last week, and I honestly I think it's a solid move. Marty St. Louis definitely improved the Montreal Canadiens. And whether you think they can bounce back and maybe get into the playoffs next year, or at least be a lot better than they were this season, which they should be. The reality is that you've got to get guys like Caulfield, Suzuki, you got to get them scoring, you've got to get them in the game, and he absolutely did that. Also, the question of Carey Price, it is still not known. We still don't know whether or not Carey Price is going to be okay. Is he going to play next year? What's going to happen with Carey? We just don't know. So we're not getting a lot of information on that. I would imagine that for the brain trust of Montreal, that has to be a frustrating part of things too, because odds are they really don't know. And you're trying to plan out next season and figure out who's going to be where and slot everybody in. And not knowing the status for Carey Price has to be trying for them. So while there's no rush for Carey Price to figure this out, in reality, there is a point in time where Montreal needs to figure it out on their own and have that plan in net. And if it means that you roll with Allen and Primo next year, okay, but we'll see what they end up doing, right? All right, that being said, moving along. Binnington's admitted that he threw the water bottle at Nazem Kadri. Yeah, we know. Honestly, it's not really. I thought that it was made to be a bigger deal than what it should have been because it was during a live interview. So it's during a live interview, so a lot of people are watching, and it's this big deal. I don't think it's a big deal. It didn't hit Kadri. It landed on the ground near Kadri. And again, Binnington just kind of, and yeah, I understand Binnington's frustration. Binnington's a goaltender who wears his heart on his sleeve. And so seeing Kadri sitting there and knowing that his season was over, he probably wanted to, and it was an empty bottle too. So an empty water bottle, I mean, we can get into whether or not the NHL should have done, but it didn't hit. And it's honestly, it's just this minor thing, but everybody's, talking about it. Also, Calle Rosen given a 2-year extension with the St. Louis Blues. Looks like it's roughly around league minimum for this year and next year. It's a two-way contract, which means he gets paid one wage at the AHL level and another at the NHL level. There are people who get confused by whether or not a two-way contract means you need to clear waivers. I consider this to be the EA Sports problem, because on EA, yeah, if you had a guy in a two-way contract, a lot of the times it allowed you to send him down to the minors without waivers. So if you're using the video game like, oh, okay, now I understand. No. So, yeah, Calle Rosen coming back, depth defenseman, obviously. I thought he played okay in his appearances in the playoffs. And so they're going to keep him around. So everything clear as mud coming out of last night's game. Darcy Kuemper it's an unknown. Jared Bednar saying he could be out for a while. He could be back next game. And this is the game, right? This is the game that Nashville played about Saros. This is the game Carolina played about Freddie Anderson to some extent, although we could see Anderson's practice schedule wasn't, definitely was skewing towards he's not coming back, at least. The Canes, I think, would have had to reach the final for him to come back, just with how slowly things were going with Freddie Anderson. And just in general, teams won't tell you what's going on with goaltenders. St. Louis, Binnington, yeah, he's out for the rest of the series, but that was as far as they were going with it, and here we are. So yeah, Darcy Kuemper, I would think from the way it looked last night, he probably doesn't play game 2. The goaltending was not great though. So one thing from last night's game is that the call last night, the whole offside goal, was it not, overshadows the fact that it was a poorly played game defensively by both teams. There were so many rush opportunities. So I'm not getting into the whole offside goal and all that. And I'm giving, here's the NHL's explanation. Here's why they're saying it's onside, and there's that. So I understand there's people who aren't happy about it. The odds of that happening in a game, very, very slim. Darren Drager on TSN today saying that it usually, when those plays happen, it doesn't result in the goal. So the NHL telling him, yeah, this happens a lot during the game. This is how the rule's been called, but usually it doesn't result in a goal on that play. It's along the same line as, how many goals are scored on what turns out to be an offside play. And it always makes me think about how often a play's offside. So now when I watch a hockey game, unlike in years and years past, I will say out loud, well, that play's offside. That's offside. Or vice versa, where they'll whistle it down like that wasn't offside. So that's something I never would have thought with games before. It was the linesman in the game that made the call. It had nothing to do with the referees, because I've seen a lot of refs this and refs that. The linesmen have the call on that. So when you're looking at a replay for an offside, you will see the linesman. The referees have nothing. And then if it's anything else, the referees or the guys who are on the headsets and figuring it out. So the linesman made that call, and it does overshadow the fact the Oilers came out slow. They were stuck on 2 shots for a long time in that game. And yeah, they woke up later on and they got it together. It did feel a lot like the Calgary game. And again, we're hearing a lot of the same things coming out of this game about, well, the Oilers are in over their heads and they're going to be out 4, maybe 5 at most. And again, it's hard to say, because I didn't think Colorado looked great last night either. While Darcy Kuemper and Pavel Francouz, there's softies with 3 of the 4 goalies last night. I didn't think Colorado looked like Stanley Cup champs either. So all of the discussion around that goal overshadows the fact that I thought both teams defensively allowing way too many odd man rushes. And again, I do like the offensive side of the game, but there has to be some defense in there. And in that game last night, both defenses were clearly either they were out of sync or they just weren't prepared for what they were going to face. So we'll see whether or not tomorrow night's game is more of a tight checking, low scoring affair. I expect that. And we'll see if that's what we end up getting. All right, that being said, moving along. Jets news. So Kevin Cheveldayoff does not expect to be trading Mark Scheifele. And again, it comes back to this idea that there's this huge divide in the Winnipeg locker room. Hey, those rumors go back to when, there was the whole Line A thing and Wheeler and all this other stuff. The rumors are always out there, and I don't really get into it because I'm not in that locker room. I don't talk to those players. I don't have any direct knowledge of what's going on. So it all becomes kind of speculation on my part. But if Kevin Cheveldayoff is saying he's not expecting to trade Scheifele this summer, it can't be that bad. If it was that bad, he would be making a move and he'd be kind of hedging on this. Or if there's a belief that there's a divide in the locker room and if he's keeping Scheifele, then we can keep an eye on who else might be on the other side, right? But again, I don't have any direct information on it. It to me at this point is just speculative, and I try to stay out of the speculative side of things. So with the Rangers reaching the East Coast final, or the Eastern Conference final, it's not the East Coast. What are you talking about? Stupid hockey guy, East Coast final. So Eastern Conference, you stupid hockey moron. So, clown. Anyways, with the Rangers reaching the Eastern Conference final, that gives the Jets a first-round pick in exchange for Andrew Kopp. That first-round pick now is guaranteed to be either number 29, 30, 31, or 32. So we'll see what number it ends up being, but for the Jets, that means it's a first-round draft pick instead of a second. And I think the Rangers and their fans will be fine with that. They're in the Final Four, and Kopp's been fantastic. He has definitely played a large role in them getting to the Final Four. I think of the pickups at the deadline, Kopp turned out to be one of the best pickups at the deadline. And as I remember, it wasn't that one of the last trades that was announced, kind of one of those. So apparently Kopp's been dealt, and I think that was after we were like, oh, all right, I guess Kopp's staying. Oh, no, he's been dealt to the Rangers. So a good last-minute move by the Rangers. Worked out pretty well. Now, I found this kind of entertaining that Isak Rosen, first-round draft pick of the Buffalo Sabres last year, number 14 pick, signs an entry-level contract. So Callie Rosen signs a contract. Isak Rosen signs a contract. It's Rosen signing day. So apparently May 31st / June 1st, because the Rosen extension gets announced today. The other Rosen contract, the entry-level contract, got announced yesterday. So maybe it's a 2-day Rosen fest. I don't know. I'm getting really close to feeling like it's Ramstein because you get Rosen and then you got Rosenrot and then I get off on a whole tangent. We don't need me on a tangent in a news video. So with Rosen signing his contract, we'll see if he ends up playing this year for the Buffalo Sabres, if he ends up down in the AHL. Rochester seeing some fantastic performances by players in their rookie years in the AHL. We'll see how many of them come up to Buffalo next year. Again, I do think Buffalo is going to have a pretty good team next year. I think they're going to surprise some people because I've still been seeing comments along the lines of, they've been spinning their wheels for a decade. It's never going to get better. Eventually, it has to get better. They're already historically bad. So I also wanted to add at the end of this, I was talking about in the preview for the series between Tampa and the Rangers that Corey Perry's chasing a cup and he went to the finals with Dallas, went to the finals with Montreal, and now he's trying to get there with Tampa. I know he won it as a rookie in '07 with the Anaheim Ducks. I was talking about his chase to win this one and the fact that this is the third time now with 3 different teams that he's made it this far. With the previous 2, he made it to the Stanley Cup final and then lost in the final. Now, interestingly enough, in my bracket, I have Colorado beating Tampa in the final. We'll see if that's what ends up happening, because if it does, then that'd be 3 years in a row of Corey Perry losing in the Stanley Cup final, which should be a whole other video topic for a whole other time. But I do know he won in '07, and yeah, it was on the kid line, right, which did pretty well. There always seems to be a kid line at some point in time during the summer too. I should do a video on kid lines and famous kid lines that did well, and I can go back to the Edmonton Oilers in 1990 as an example. And yeah, so there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.